How comfortable are you in 4-bet pots? How about if you are playing 200-400 against some of the best players in the world, and yes, Linus is at the table? How comfortable do you feel then? Today we look at a Nosebleed's hand where that was my situation. This hand really tested my range versus range understanding. I will take you along with me and review this high stakes Nosebleeds 40k NL hand because this is what people like on YouTube. I will take you through my thought process. I will take you in the solver and show you what are the things that go through my mind when I'm playing these games, and also how advanced mechanics in 4-bet pots can look like. I'm Daniel, Show of Force. As you can see, this is gonna be a juicy video today, so let's waste no time and just jump into the lab.
Alright, we are gonna start with the hand history and we're gonna go with it in parallel with my thought process and the solver. Gonna get juicy, come on. 200-400, I open because I have a good hand. I get 3-bet by a reg. This was not Linus, Linus was here, I remember. I get 3-bet here. As you can see, we are slightly deep. And I decide to 4-bet here. I will mix in 4-bets with this type of hand. Especially as people tend to 3-bet linear here, I think it is important to have some linear 4-betting ourselves and get value from weaker hands from him. Decently big size because again, when people 3-bet linear here, I don't like using small sizings. I don't want to give them good pot odds to just outplay me in position. So against linear ranges, we want big 4-bet sizings. And especially as this is a spot where I will not call too much and I'm gonna actually do 4-bet quite a bit. He calls. We have Jack 9, 8 rainbow. And I'm like, fuck my life, because obviously not a good board for me. And before even talking about the solution, let's talk about pre-flop here. Because pre-flop, the first lesson for you guys today here, pre-flop will change things a ton, will change the solution a ton. So it's very important what ranges are we dealing with here. And for that, let's go to the solver. And here we are. I'm mostly using GTO Wizard almost all the time today, by the way. I basically have everything I need here. So let's look at my range a bit. And as you can see, I'm using a simplified range here for multiple reasons. It's gonna be way easier to know if I hit well or not on the flop. And I do change my ranges quite often, so I don't mind giving this one away. But this is gonna be my 4-bet range here in this spot. And his calling 4-bet range. This is again can get very dicey because maybe some people have flats here. Maybe they go 3-bet or fold. So this is gonna be challenging, but this is the range I got from the GTO Wizard spots. So we're gonna use this one because I'm thinking most people use this type of range here. As for my flop strategy here, what I'm thinking in game is he's hitting this board a ton. He will have 8s, 9s at some frequency at least. You have jacks. So very connected board. It's rainbow, but it's gonna be very bad for my out of position range. So that's why here I decide to check a high frequency. With my hand, what I'm thinking in game is I have good playability. However, I really don't want to get shoved on if I c-bet here. So I would mostly check this hand myself. Mostly looking to maybe check call. So we can see here, yes, we are indeed checking most of the time in the solver. We can even look at range versus range here. You can see how in position will have quite a bit of EV on this board. He's kind of destroying me in all realms here. So this is what I'm looking for, range versus range, to think about how I'm gonna play this board. I do have sometimes jacks here, which is helpful. But other than that, I either have some overcards that kind of missed and some overpairs, some junky stuff. Not a good spot. So I decide to check with King Queen of Spades here, which is mostly checking. And the reason here, as you can see, this is gonna be a deep dive, guys. So let me know in the comments below if you like this kind of deep dive video actually. If you're a GTO nerd like me, come on. So King Queen, why do we not bet this at a higher frequency like with no backdoor flush draw? Well, with no backdoor flush draw, it's it's a weaker hand, so we can even bet fold it easier because we are folding less equity. King queen getting like bet folding king queen sucks way more with backdoor flush draw because we are giving up way more equity if he's shoving on us, for example. So I do decide to check, as you can see here in game. He bets small, like quarter pot, right? So I decide to check call here. I think check raising is kind of aggressive, it's too aggressive because I feel like he has so much equity so much of the time here that I don't really get folds, and I have like quite good odds to see a turn card, and I have a lot of odds to improve here. I call and river is a 10 of spades. Juicy. Jizz in my pants. 32k pot already. This is a good spot. This is a good spot to be in. Here, as you can see, he's supposed to stab quite a bit, but let's look at how he should play overall. So his sets are mostly checking back, which I don't think is realistic. Two pair, overpair stabbing, okay, fair enough. But if he has a straight, almost never, doesn't really count. So he's supposed to be top pair here, like checking back a lot. I don't think he's gonna play like this. I would assume his stabbing range will be stronger than this. Actually, it will be more centered towards the strong hands in his range. So I don't really like to attack his stabbing range. As you can see here, my hand check calls always. We can have some check shoves with over cards. Oh, sorry, over pairs. And some king jack here, blocking jacks. Some ace queen getting juicy. Jacks as being a less vulnerable hand, we want to check call it. Here on the turn, I know I have king queen. This is amazing, but is this really a good turn for my range? In game, I was thinking not really, because again, he will have queens, he will have queen x, he has pocket tens, he has 10-9. In game, I really feel like he will hit this turn a lot. I do have queen x, how, like pocket queens probably, if I don't check shove. Ace queen, I don't really have. King queen type of hand like this. So I do decide to check, thinking this is still a pretty good turn for him overall. I have aces and kings probably here at some frequency, some ace king with backdoor flush draw, and he checks back. In the solver here, we see actually we are supposed to donk at quite high frequency. Apparently this turn is better for me than I thought. Well, it's also given if I check raise these hands on the flop, then yes, my range will be more condensed towards hitting this turn, like queen x type of hands. But in game, I'm thinking like I'm not really donking here, so let's just remove the donk quickly. And looking at his strategy here, he should be quite careful and check back a ton if I'm not donking. As you can see, he has quite a few straights here actually. 28% of his range are straights, 30% overpair. This is a narrow range spot. This is a very narrow range spot, so he's supposed to check back with straights a lot. Again, are people really doing this in game? So we're seeing so far quite a bit of slow playing from in position here and trapping quite a bit. I'm thinking he can still stab small with his sets here and put me in a really tough spot. It's hard for me to build a check raising range, but he does check back. And we get this river, which I'm not really sure I want this river at this point. Of course not. We lose to ace queen now. So I don't think, does he have ace queen that much? Maybe he has suited ace queen, but does he check it back on the turn? Unlikely. So this is one interesting thing now with my how I fought in game range versus range. I'm thinking, okay, how does my range look here? And I'm realizing once I check call flop, I don't really have a weak hand anymore on this run out. What do I have? That's air. I don't really have air that check calls. So in this kind of spot, I think my range wants to actually do a lot of block betting, because it's very hard to find bluffs, and I can even maybe go for some thin value bets, maybe some pocket kings, maybe some pocket jacks. I don't really see myself checking too much on this river, and I can even bluff as a block bet with maybe some ace king backdoor flush draw turning that into a bluff, which I know sounds crazy, but maybe we can get him to fold a set or two pair and this run out. So a very dicey spot. If we think about it, range versus range, our range should do a lot of block betting here as we don't have air. And we do have quite a bit of Queen X ourselves. So I actually do decide to block here on the river. He tanks, and we get the fold, taking down this juicy 32k pot after GG takes $60 for letting us play on their wonderful platform. Getting the king of diamonds now here on the river in the solver. So we do see we are only using block size. I know we have a very strong hand. I know, like, oh, just go all in, but we want to think about our whole range when we're playing these higher levels against people who are very competent at NL 40k. We cannot just like, oh, look at my hand and just play my hand, bro. No, we want to think about range versus range. So the solver likes this 40%. This AI solver really likes these 40% bets. But I'm actually blocking here with quarter pot. This is what I have on my bet slider. So let's remove the all in because we're not going to do that. And let's look at our strategy. So as we are seeing, we are actually with our hand always betting here. I know it can be tempting to trap, but trap what? Like, I'm not going to trap too much here. And we can see actually ace jack. Ace jack makes sense actually as a bluff here, blocking jacks. And ace king being hands like ace king backdoor flush draw, like I said, we can even start bluffing with these. Aces a bit too strong maybe to bluff and doesn't really have good blockers. So this is kind of like how the solution looks like. Now a cool thing to do is like, let's look at his reaction after we bet, and we can see like ace king kind of becomes a sick bluff against ace king as well, well, against the split. And against aces, he should start folding aces here if he has slow play that pre-flop, which many people will. As for the option to check here, my particular opponent, I don't think he's particularly aggressive, and I think he's on the careful side. So that's why, I hope he's not watching this, but that's why I decide here to bet myself, because I think even with a set, let's see if he should bet a set here. Okay, so actually he should not even bet a set. So yeah, I don't think he's betting that much here on the river himself. So I would just rather, as you can see here with the straight, maybe ace queen here, unblocking more stuff that he can bet. We can start mixing in some checks to check shove, obviously. But yeah, our hand, I like the way I played it. Again, very important, guys. It's more like when we look at these solutions, we want to understand principles and how to play our hand, but really be able to take those principles and think, okay, does my opponent do this? Does his range actually look like this? And then come up with an adjusted solution by the river. That's why you saw me do quite a bit of adjustments on the flop, on the turn, and on the river here, based on my understanding of the game.
Okay, so I believe you learned quite a bit today. Let's do a quick recap of the main takeaways here. First of all, be careful about how preflop ranges can really change the solution, especially when we are talking about narrow ranges here. And second big one is really try to keep track of both ranges, yours and villain's range, to be able to come up with strong river strategies. And lastly, actually let me know if you would have played this hand differently. Do you shove river? Do you check? Do you play differently pre-flop, on the flop? Let me know in the comments below. Like this video, subscribe of course to stay tuned with other analysis I will be doing in the future. As you can see, I'm here in the mix, getting in the mix a bit with content, making some time for you guys, giving you some insights into this high stakes world like nobody else I think is doing right now. If you're playing mid stakes looking to go to high stakes, I have a coaching application below. At the moment I don't really have slots, maybe I can take one student, but if not I can put you on the waiting list. You can find the links in the description for the free Discord, my coaching and other discount links. I'll leave you with another video here, tailored just for you by the YouTube algorithm himself, itself, whatever. This has been Daniel, Show of Force. I'll see you guys in the streets.
They got me mobbing like I'm locked and ready to get my slug on. I load my clip and slip my motherfucking gloves on. I ain't scared to blast on these suckers if they test me. Trust, I got my Glock, cop player if they press me. Bust some motherfuckers with